This is the question asked in today's skillrack daily challenge. So we are given n integers as input and our task is to print the integers in every line such a way that digits present in every integers in every line are unique. So for the particular sample input, let us try forming our output. So the first integer is 995. We cannot print this integer because the digit 9 is repeated in the integer. So we ignore printing this whole integer. So we will not be printing 995. So we move on to the next integer. So it is 917 and all the digits has occurred only once. So 917 all has occurred only once. So we print 917 and the next integer is 756 and again all the integers has occurred only once. But when we try printing 756 next to 917, the digit 7 is present in both 917 as well as 756. So we should not print the integers like this. So we print 756 in the next line. And now the next integer is 899. So the digit 9 is repeated twice. So we ignore printing this whole integer 899 and the next integer 922. Here also the integer 2 is repeated twice. So we ignore printing 922 and then 498. So all the digits has occurred only once. So we print 498. It has occurred after two integers which has repeated digits. So we should not print the integer 498 next to 756. The integer 498 should be printed in a new line. Even though all the digits present between both the integers are unique, since there were two integers before 498 which has repeated digits, so we should not print 498 next to 756. So we print the integer 498 in a new line. So I am moving it to the next line. And now the next integer is 545. So the digit 5 is repeated twice. So we won't be printing this integer. So the next integer must also be printed in a new line because the previous integer has a repeated digit. So 371. So we print 371. The integer 37 can be printed next to 498 and after printing the digits, all the digits would be unique. But 545 has occurred before 371 which we ignored printing. So in those cases we print 371 in a new line. So whenever the previous integer has a repeated digit, we print a new line. And now after 371 the integer is 4. So we can print 4 next to 371 because the 371 is valid, and when we print 371 and 4, all the digits present in the line are unique. So we can print 371 and 4 together in the same line. And then 87. And now when we try printing 87 in this line after 4, the digit 7 would be repeated twice in the line. So we should not print this 87 after 4. So we move 87 to the next line. And then the next integer is 667. So the integer 6, the digit 6 has repeated twice. So we ignore printing it and we move to the next integer. And the next integer must be printed in the new line. So we print 75 in the new line. And after 75, the last integer is 501. So if we print 501 next to 75, then the digit 5 would be repeated twice in this line. So we print 501 in the new line. So this is our output. So now let us also check it with our expected output. So the first three integers are 917, 756 and 498 and 917, 756 and 498. So the last four integers are also same as our expected output. So 3714, 87, 75 and 501. So this is how we should be forming our output. So now let us see the given sample test cases. So for sample input 3, if we are not possible to print any integers, then we should print -1 like our sample input 3. And then for sample input 2, we have followed the same procedure and printed the output. Now let us see how to write a C program for this. So first I have created two functions. The first function is has common digit. So this function accepts two integers in its arguments and it returns 1 if there is a common digit present between the two integers a and b, else this function returns 0. So for example, let us take two values of a and b. So if a is equal to 1, 2, 3 and b is equal to 4, 5, 6, then there are no two digits common between these two integers. So 1 is not present in 4, 5, 6 and similarly 2, 3 both are not present in 4, 5, 6. So in these cases this function would return 0. The same if the integer b is equal to 4, 5, 1, then 1 is present in both a and b. So if this is the case, then this function would return 1. So now let us see how we are implementing it. First I am creating a new integer array named frequency of size 10 and I am setting all the values initially to 0. And now I am going to update the frequency of the digits present in a. So I am creating a while loop that iterates until a becomes 0, and in every iteration we will divide a by 10 and we will store the frequency of the digit in the frequency array. So we will set frequency of a mod 10 plus plus, and similarly for the integer b. So the b loop iterates until b becomes 0, and here we will be checking if the frequency at b mod 10 is not equal to 0, then the particular digit is already being updated by the digit present in a. So whenever frequency of b mod 10 is not equal to 0, then we return 1 because the particular digit has been already present in the integer a. Only then the frequency value would have been updated from 0. So in those cases we would return 1. Else after both the while loops we return 0. So this is how this function has common digit works. And now there is another function named has repeated digit. So this function accepts one integer in its arguments. So we name that integer as n, and this function returns 1 if any of the digit in the particular integer has been repeated, else this function returns 0. So let us take an example and let us assume the value of the integer n is equal to 1, 2, 3. So the digits present in 1, 2, 3 are 1, 2 and 3, and all the digits has occurred only once. So none of the digits has been repeated. So in these cases this function would return 1 because all the digits are present only one time. The same if the integer n is equal to 1 to 1, then the digit 1 would be present twice. So the digit 1 is repeated. So in these cases this function would return 1. So now let us see how we are implementing this function. First I am creating a new integer array named frequency of size 10 and I am setting all the values to 0. And now I am storing the frequency of the digits present in integer n into the array. So I am iterating the loop until n becomes 0, and in every iteration I will increment the value of the integer present at the index n mod 10. So after the execution of this while loop, the frequency will be present in the array. So I am creating a loop that iterates from 0 to 10 because the length of the frequency array is 10, and in any of the index, if the value is greater than 1, then the particular digit has been repeated more than once. So if frequency of I is greater than 1 in any of the index from 0 to 10, then this function would return 1, else this function finally returns 0. So this is how this function works. Now let us see our main function. So first I am creating a new integer n, and in the next line I am accepting the value of the integer n, and then I am creating an integer array named arr of size n, and then I am creating a loop that iterates for n times, and in every iteration I will accept the integer and store it into the array arr. And after that I am creating 3 more integers named pos, is printed and line break, and I am setting all their values initially to 0. So now we have to perform the logic as per the conditions given in the question. So anyway we have to print all the n integers. So I am creating a loop that iterates from 0 to n, and in every iteration first I am checking whether the digit has been repeated or not. So to do that I'm making use of the function integer has repeated. So we have already seen how this function works. So if the integer has repeated digits, then this part of the program would be executed, else the else part program will be executed. So this for loop would be executed. So first let us see what we are doing in the else part. We come to the else part only when the integer has a repeated digit. So our task to do in the else part is we have to find the next integer in the array which doesn't has a repeating digit. So since it is a next integer, we start from I plus 1 and iterate till n minus 1, and in every iteration we will be checking whether the digit has no repeated digits or not. So not has repeated digits. So if it is true, then we will set the value of I is equal to j minus 1. So we set I is equal to j minus 1 because after the else part, the I loop I will be incremented by 1. So the value of I will be updated to j. For POS, we set the value of POS is equal to j, and since whenever a repeated digit is found, we need to print a new line. I am setting the integer line break is equal to 1, and I am breaking out of this for loop. So this is what we will be doing in the else part. Now let us see what we are doing in the if condition. So if the particular integer has no repeating digits, then we will be performing the operations within this if block. So first we will be creating a loop, and this loop will be checking for the integers that are present from the previous index till POS. So the initial value of POS will be equal to 0, and in every subsequent iteration the value of POS will be updated according to the integers which has repeated digits and no repeated digits. So this loop starts to iterate from I minus 1 till POS, and in every iteration we will be checking whether the two integers has any common digits. So again we will make use of the function has common digit, and if that condition is satisfied, then we will print a new line and we will set the value of POS is equal to I, because whenever we print a new line, then the first integer of the new line will be the starting point. So we set POS is equal to I. So for every next integers present in the array, we will iterate only till the value of POS, and after that we will be printing the integer arr of I, and since we have printed an integer, we set the value of is printed is equal to 1, and we set the value of line break is equal to 0. And before that we are also checking whether we need to print a line or not. Suppose if the previous integer has a repeated digit, then the value of line break would have been updated to 1. So we are checking that in the if condition. So if we have printed at least one digit and the line break is equal to 1, then we should print a new line. So to print a new line, inside the printf statement, first I am checking whether line break is equal to 1 or not. If it is true, then we print a new line, else we print nothing. So whenever the previous integer has a repeating digit, we print a new line and print the current integer arr of I, else we directly print arr of I. And after the execution of the I loop, if the value of the integer is printed is still equal to 0, then it means none of the integer would have been printed. So in those cases we should print -1. Now let us check our program with sample test cases. So now I have given the sample input 1, and this is our expected output. So we also get the same integers, and now I am giving the sample input 2, and we have our expected output below. So again we get the correct output for sample input 2, and now I have given the sample input 3, and our expected output is -1. So we also get -1 as our output. And now I am giving the input which we seen first, and our expected output for that is below. So here also again we get the correct output. So this is the logic behind today's daily challenge. Thank you for watching.